Let's fall in love. Why shouldn't we fall in love? Our hearts are made of it. Let's take a chance. Why be afraid of it? Let's close our eyes and make our own paradise. Little we know of it, still we can try to make a go of it. We might have been meant for each other to be.
What a great way to swing into the morning here on WMKV and WLHS. Thanks for Russ letting us pop in here on his program. We have three very special guests here in the studio talking about the crown jewels of jazz, also learning through art, and we also have the president here of Jazz Alive as well, but a very special guest joining us here for the very first time in Cincinnati, Valèrie Graschaire. And also we have Laura Gentry and we have Kathy Wade. Welcome, everyone, to WMKV.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So great to have you here. Now, Valèrie is going to be performing on Wednesday night, July 27th. That's tomorrow night from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. This is the finale of the Crown Jewels of Jazz. Laura and Kathy, you put together an incredible series of programs every summer, and it's celebrating women in jazz. Would either of you like to talk a little bit about this series?
2 years ago, when COVID hit, we had to shut down. And right as we did that, we were planning a program around celebrating women in jazz. Crown Jewels of Jazz actually started out as a celebration of women in jazz. I sing jazz, so for me, it was really a selfish idea. When we started, I wanted to meet every then living jazz female legend. And I pretty much got through my list. We started off with Rosemary Clooney. We had Shirley Horn a couple of times. We had Dionne Warwick.
Nancy Wilson,
Diane Shore.
Eartha Kitt.
Eartha Kitt was our last one. Yeah, she was our very last crown jewel. We decided in 2019, 2020, we were going to celebrate in relation to the 19th Amendment, the celebration of that, women getting the right to vote. We wanted to celebrate women in jazz again, and unfortunately we couldn't do it. So we were able to revise this whole lineup, and thanks to, as I said last week, Laura Gentry, we have the right lanes here. She's so great at putting together a lineup that it has just worked out perfectly. And this one is very special because it is an exchange of the Cincinnati Nancy Sister City project. And that is something that Laura Gentry came up with in terms of the jazz initiative. So I was an ambassador that went to Nancy, and we have Valèrie coming here to fulfill that same thing on this side of the ocean.
And we're going to learn more about the sister cities from Laura Gentry in a moment. But Valèrie Graschaire, thank you so much for coming here. And I know it's been a trek getting to Cincinnati, and this is your first time here in Cincinnati.
Yes, this is my first time. I was supposed to come, it was 2 years ago,
right.
But as Kathy said, it was not possible for me. So I'm very happy to be here today.
What are some of your musical influences? As you were growing up, I believe, in France, correct?
Yes, in French, of course, yes.
What were some of your musical influences? Because I can hear a little bit of Ella in there. I can hear all kinds of things.
Yes, for me, Ella is the master. It's the queen because she could sing ballads, she could sing up-tempos, she could sing everything, and it was always very emotional, and I love her way of scatting. I sing scat, and for me it's the best influence. I also love Diana Krall for rhythmic placement for the words. I've got a lot of influences, Sarah Vaughan also, but for me the master is Ella Fitzgerald. Yes.
You heard Valèrie Graschaire from Nancy, France, and we also have Laura Gentry here, the president of Jazz Alive, but also intrinsically involved with the Crown Jewels of Jazz. And you can also hear our Jazz Alive program with Nate Henderson and the late Bob Nave. We still broadcast those programs. Laura, this is very important, and I know you were very much instrumental, or vocal, I guess I could say, if I can play with the pun, but you were very, very close to working with this Nancy Cincinnati Sister Cities program and the ambassadorship.
Yeah, we started the jazz initiative with the Cincinnati Nancy Sister Cities relationship in 2016. The city of Nancy wanted to do a initiative in celebration of the arts, specifically jazz, to commemorate the 100th anniversary of jazz being introduced in Europe by the Harlem Hellfighters Band. that's where the idea started. And the president of the association, Carla Walker, approached me about creating an initiative. And as I stated it before, we came up with the idea of how could we do a year-over-year initiative where delegations would travel back and forth between the two cities in the idea of celebrating jazz and our commonality in the appreciation of the arts. And we started with 2 musicians who came over from France in 2018. And they were here for a week and did educational outreach at SCPA and Walnut Hills High School. And they also performed at the Greenwich with local musicians here. Kathy Wade was one of them. And then the next part of the initiative was we took a delegation there in 2019 as part of the Nancy Jazz Pulsations Festival, which is a jazz festival in Nancy, France that is in its 45th year, I believe.
Yes.
And we did a similar idea of educational outreach with schools there and performances to support what was going on with Nancy Jazz Pulsations. And we were able to return last year with another delegation of educators, expand the educational outreach that we did with multiple schools, and also perform as part of Nancy Jazz Pulsations. And so there's a couple different things within that association that is important with the universality of the appreciation of jazz.
Definitely.
And that's one thing that I saw in the immediacy being there in France is that it doesn't matter if we can't speak the same language. Once we all hear a jazz tune that we know and we love, we're all right together. And I found that not only with the musicians, but with the students that we worked with over there. And as I was telling Valerie, as we drove here, we had a lot of feedback about people in Nancy wanting to come to Cincinnati. So our next focus, hopefully as part of the Cincinnati-Nancy Sister Cities Association relationship, is that we can bring a delegation of the musicians and the educators that have worked with us over the years, and also the municipal leaders who have been involved in supporting this relationship, bringing them here to Cincinnati so they can get an opportunity to see how much we are involved in the arts here and the appreciation of jazz in our city.
You just heard Laura Gentry, and we have Kathy Wade here with us, as well as special guest Valèrie Graschaire, who is going to be performing Wednesday, July 27th. It's 6:30 to 8:30, rain or shine. It happens. This is a free concert at Season Good Pavilion in Eden Park, part of the Crown Jewels of Jazz.
For anyone who is listening, if you're interested in coming, please go to Crown Jewels of Jazz Facebook page, my own Facebook page, and we will be announcing if we move to an indoor location because of the weather.
And Kathy, Valèrie, what can people expect to hear tomorrow night?
It will be swinging.
Swinging, that's right.
It will be fire. No, it will be jazz standards. And I will perform with a saxophone player, with a pianist, a double bass and drums, and it will be fun. Yeah, I hope there will be a lot of people coming.
If by chance the weather is not going to cooperate with us tomorrow, we will announce on social media an indoor location that we'll be going to.
Well, the music that we played at the beginning and we'll play going out in a little bit, if that's any indication, man, it's going to be a great evening.
I'm listening to Valèrie say, I love Ella Fitzgerald. You have no idea what you are in store for. I was very fortunate enough. Valèrie allowed me to come into her vocal class, and it is one thing to have a vocal class. It's another thing when everybody in the class can actually scat. It was just breathtaking. But to hear her voice, it's like not even stepping back in time. It's just like being there in the moment. She is amazing. Not only a great educator, but a fantastic vocalist. Fantastic. You must come here.
We're speaking with Valèrie Graschaire, also Laura Gentry, Kathy Wade, and we're talking about the Learning Through Art Crown Jewels of Jazz event coming up Wednesday, July 27th. That's tomorrow night, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. We're talking about it here on WMKV and WLHS, and we appreciate Learning Through Art support as well as Jazz Alive support of WMKV and WLHS. This is at Season Good Pavilion tomorrow night, Eden Park, but also check the Facebook page We'll try to get the word out here on WMKV should the weather intervene. And Valèrie Graschaire making her very first appearance in Cincinnati. I know there were some other things planned, but obviously this is something you've been looking forward to. And as an ambassador...
Yes, of course, because I love the idea to come here to represent my town, Nancy, and as an artist, of course, but also as an educator, as a teacher. When we met with Kathy and Laura, it was so great to speak about a common love that is jazz and teaching and performing, and that was really an honor for me to be invited here. I'm so happy to be here in Cincinnati. That's as a matter of fact my first time. I hope it won't be the last.
Right.
But it's a real pleasure for me to be the ambassador and to represent Nancy here in Cincinnati.
And for those people who are wanting to look this up and learn more, Nancy is Nancy. It's spelled just like the women's name or the woman's name, Nancy.
Yes.
But it's Nancy in France. And once again, sister cities. And we'll talk more with Laura about that in a moment. What was the spark for you, Valèrie? What was the thing that maybe as a young person you heard jazz and you said, this is what I want to do? Was there something that influenced you early on?
In fact, it's not that way. Because I was a pianist, classical pianist when I was young, so I knew music and I knew how to read music. In fact, when I was young, I always loved singing. And I was singing in the couch of the salon by my parents. I was with my headphone and my parents always told me, hey, be quiet, we are watching TV. And I always loved singing. So I made my studies and I go to a school to learn singing. And I met some people there that told me, oh, maybe you have to try to sing jazz because I feel your voice good for this type of music. And okay, jazz is for old people. And then I was interested in that style, and I listened to Ella because my parents, they had a vinyl.
Yes. Old LPs. Yes, we have a few of them here in the studio. Yes.
Of the concert in Berlin of Ella. And
Classic.
when I heard this voice, ability to scat and to play with words, with music, with rhythm, I told myself, wow, in fact, I love this music. So I rehearsed with several musicians that I met. And first, when I was young, I had a rock band. But I didn't feel well in that type because I knew it's not my type. I'm a little bit rock and roll in life, but not so far to sing it. And when I sung jazz, I felt that was my type. Jazz has got a lot of rules, but you are so free when you sing with your own soul and your own vision of the song. You always sing some songs that have been already sung, but you sing these songs with your soul.
Your own interpretation, yes.
Exactly, that's right. And that's what pleased me, yes. And then I worked on improvisation, on skatting. I learned improvisation with a trumpet player that made me work as a trumpet. And so I've learned all the scales. And after I met my husband, who is a drummer, so I always practice a rhythm with him. And he said, oh, be careful. Oh, no, don't do that. Okay. Oh. And it was a good lesson for me. And so I consider really myself as an instrument. And that's why I always say to my students, in jazz, you're a singer, of course, but you are a musician, as all the band, and you have to prove others that you are a musician. So work your voice, work rhythm, work harmony, and be the best.
I take from what you're saying is that you can acquire that love of jazz at any age, really.
Yes.
I mean, this is not something that has to be intrinsically from the beginning. However, with Kathy and Laura here, and we're talking about education, the beauty of the Sister Cities program, as well as learning through art, is the fact that we are helping young men and women visualize themselves on stage, and especially with the Crown Jewels of Jazz, we're talking a lot about the young women out there. As Kathy said, if you can see yourself up there, you can do this.
That's right.
It's amazing.
Of course.
Absolutely. That is so important.
This is all about education in a lot of ways, but it's also about just enjoying some great music. And you want to hear Valèrie Graschaire, and it's going to be an incredible evening tomorrow night, Wednesday, July 27th, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Season Good Pavilion. It's in Eden Park. Laura, as far as having this as an ambassador program, this is really something that's very special, I know, to you and to Kathy and to Valèrie, to show how jazz has influenced the rest of the world. I mean, we talk about American classical music in so many ways, but it has really influenced the rest of the world.
Yes, jazz was born in the United States, and it is revered all over the world. And in the opportunities that I've had to travel abroad, I see that the universality of the appreciation of the art form, I've seen that repeatedly everywhere I go, not only in Europe, but Canada and Mexico. You see that everywhere. And I'm always blown away, honored, astounded. I was just in Ascona, Switzerland for the Jazz Ascona Festival, and the whole town was transformed in celebration of the festival. Again, another festival that's been in existence for 35 years, celebrating jazz. And we get a clear understanding of that universality of the appreciation of the art form. And as Kathy mentioned, being able to provide examples of what people can see of themselves as artists, as educators, being involved in this art form. And for myself, also, if someone is interested in doing what I do, presenting and promoting this art form, we always feel representation is important. One of the reasons why we wanted to have a lineup focused on women, again, that we were able to hopefully continue. We were resurrecting from the cancellations in 2020 and hope to continue. I said, Mother Nature had to set us down for a minute, and we had to listen to her for a minute before we could come back.
That's right.
And the educational piece, and Kathy can attest to this, the importance of that. Again, we see that with students from kindergarten up to college age, about the importance of learning about this art form and understanding it. And also, one of the things that I think is important with educational outreach with jazz is that understanding jazz is the root of a lot of genres that we hear, and there are several things taken, the unique qualities of jazz taken out of that context with that art form into other genres of music.
In fact, Valèrie, when she was doing that rock and roll, was actually doing things that were influenced by the world of jazz around the world. Kathy, on learning through art, and again, the best way to find out about any of the things going on with Learning Through Art, celebrating its 30th year.
Yes,
great. Congratulations. That's so good. You can find out more at the website, LTA30th.com.
Yes.
It just stands for Learning Through Art 30th.com, and you can find out about all the things coming up, including tomorrow night, Wednesday, July 27th at Season Good Pavilion, Eden Park, and that's 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Free concert.
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun. Valèrie Graschaire.
And we just want to say we're watching the forecast for tomorrow.
I was wondering if you were going to say that.
And if by chance the weather is not going to cooperate with us tomorrow, we will announce on social media an indoor location that we'll be going to. So for anyone who is listening, if you're interested in coming, please go to Crown Jewels of Jazz Facebook page, my own Facebook page, and we will be announcing if we move to an indoor location because of the weather.
And you don't want to miss us.
No, and we'll send notification out to the station as well.
Very good, and we'll get that on the air. Valèrie Graschaire will be performing either at Season Good Pavilion in Eden Park, but I know, speaking of the women of jazz, Mother Nature is not always cooperating here, but there will be a performance tomorrow evening, and we will keep you apprised as we find out. Just let me know here at the radio station, Kathy, and we'll be happy to let people know about that. Also, I just wanted to mention, Kathy, coming up, I think in October 22nd, you have a very special special event coming up, a major fundraiser.
We are introducing our inaugural new fundraiser. It is called An Evening With ... so that every year, once a year, we'll be able to add another name behind those dots. This year, we are kicking off with An Evening with Kurt Ailing. See how this is the reaction we get.
I will be there.
This is every time we say it, people are like, I'm there. I need a ticket right now. It's Kurt Ailing along with the Springfield Symphony Jazz Orchestra under the leadership of Todd Stoll from Jazz at Lincoln Center. We are so looking forward to this concert. It'll be at Memorial Hall, which for me is a wonderful, wonderful location. The acoustics are amazing, and I cannot wait to hear Mr. Ailing just light up the room. But we're very excited. It is the only fundraising piece that we are doing this year. So we're very excited to be able to bring him. Once again, a great idea from my partner in musical crime, Laura Gentry. Who knew? And it all worked out.
That is fantastic.
I just want to say one other thing, because I've been with you for an entire month and I've not mentioned this. When we talk about the history of jazz, we have a program called Black Anthology of Music. And last year we did a program called Story Quotes, which is a truth and reconciliation project all about citing your truth about social injustice and systemic racism and racism, and then finding a point of reconciliation for it, how you want to change. One of those programs, we had 3 programs. The last one was Black Anthology of Music, The Resilience of Jazz, which is how we started Learning Through Art. It's a program about the history of jazz and learning the importance of finishing what you start. In this particular case, it's the same thing, but we want to take jazz and show people how it has been resilient through the years. It is still here, and so can you. Because when you trace the history of jazz, it parallels the framing of the development of the United States. So anything that happened in the United States, you can see how that parallels with how jazz got here, from the root and the sounds of Africa all the way on the slaves. I mean, the history is just there. I mention this because the show that we produced, we had to cancel the live performance because COVID came back, and we added lots of special artists, special guests, the Cincinnati Boy Choir, Revolution Dance Theater Elements, and the Cincinnati Public Schools Jazz Academy played along with us in the performance. I'm just happy to say that the performance has now been nominated for 5 regional Emmys.
Yes.
And this coming Saturday, we will hear if we have won all 5 or won, or we're just excited. And I just had to mention that because, once again, the resilience of jazz, the history of jazz is just that important that we've garnered 5 nominations for it.
Well, congratulations on the nominations. I have a feeling there might be 5 for 5.
I'm hoping.
That would be really good.
That is where we are.
We are in our final moments here. We have Valèrie Graschaire, who will be performing tomorrow night, Wednesday, July 27th, at either Season Good Pavilion, but also check the Facebook page. We'll try to get the word out here on WMKV should the weather intervene. And thank you to Valèrie. Thank you for coming to Cincinnati and being part of our program here today as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And also to Kathy Wade and to Laura Gentry, who are doing a tremendous amount to not just increase the knowledge of jazz, but increase the love of jazz and the education about jazz. And I know sometimes people hear education, they go, oh, they glaze over. But this is a fun way of learning. You put something to music, and you listen to that improvisation, especially if you catch it live.
Yes.
There is nothing quite like it. Exactly. Well, thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
If you want more information, it's at LTA30th.com, LTA30TH, or just look up Learning Through Art Cincinnati here, and you'll find it. Again, thank you to Kathy. Thank you to Laura and to Valèrie. Thank you so much for being here, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to go out with a little bit of Valèrie Graschaire, The More I See You.
The more I see you, the more I want you. Somehow this feeling just grows and grows. Whenever you go, I become more mad about you. So lost without you, and so it goes.